Assalamualaikum everyone and a very good morning. Today we are going to start the second part of motivation and personality chapter, and initially we are going to discuss the Maslow's hierarchy of need. This model was actually put forward by psychologist Abraham Maslow, and he formulated a theory of human motivation based on the notion that there is hierarchy of human needs. And as we can see in this model in front of us, which is a pyramid, he said that the human needs, they actually consisted of five different levels, as we can see in this model. And he says that these needs rank in order of importance from low level, which is the physiological needs, to high level needs, which are known as the psychogenic needs. And this theory states that individuals seek to satisfy lower level needs before high level needs. So it means, first of all, human beings will be concerned about their physiological needs. Once those needs will be satisfied, they can go for love and belonging, they can go for safety and security, for love and belonging, which is the social needs. Once those social needs will be met, then there is going to be a motivation for the ego needs, and so on. So now, when the need is fairly satisfied well, the individual is motivated to fulfill a need in the next level of the hierarchy, and when that need is satisfied, the need in the next level becomes the priority, and it is the primary motivator, and so on. So, however, if a person experiences renewed deprivation regarding a former met need at the lower level, then the need becomes the dominant factor in the person's motivation, even if only temporarily. So, here we need to understand that once you have food, water, air, and shelter, then you'll move towards building social relationships with people. But while building social relationship with people, you may start feeling hungry, and then you'll again start looking for food. So this is what he's actually explaining here. So I can give you another example. So if a person who is well off and trying to satisfy his ego needs loses his job, he reverts back or goes back to trying to satisfy his security needs. And if he gets a new job that pays him well, thus satisfying security needs, he will once again move to a higher level in the hierarchy. So it's like moving forward and switching back depending upon the situation that you are facing. Now, if we look at this diagram, we come across five different levels. So we'll start discussing with the physiological needs. So he maintained that physiological needs are the first and most basic human needs. These primary needs, which are required to sustain biological life, include food, water, air, shelter, clothing, and sex. So these are basically biogenic needs. These are very much innate to who we are. It's kind of part of our makeup, our body structure. So we need to, it is essential for all of us, for our survival, that we fulfill these needs. Then comes the safety and security needs. Now, after physiological needs have been satisfied, safety and security need becomes the driving force behind an individual's behavior. These needs are considered not only with physical safety but also with order, stability, routine, familiarity, and control over one's life and environment. For example, health and availability of healthcare are important safety concerns. Saving accounts, insurance policies, education, and vocational training, all means by which individuals satisfy the need for security. So it's not just about the physical security, it's about, could be about the financial security or the sense of security. It's about healthcare. That is what he has highlighted here. Once these needs are satisfied comes the social needs, and this third level consists of social needs such as love, affiliation, belonging, acceptance. The fourth level of needs is known as the egoistic needs. Once the social needs they are satisfied, then there comes the fourth level of Maslow hierarchy that becomes operative. And this level includes egoistic needs, which can take either an inward or outward orientation. So when we are talking about the inward orientation, we are talking about inwardly directed ego needs, and these includes the individual's need for self-acceptance, self-esteem, success, independence, and personal satisfaction. And if they are outward oriented, then they are known as the outwardly directed ego needs, and that includes the need for prestige, status, recognition, reputation from others. Once these egoistic needs are satisfied, the individuals move towards the need for self actualization. So, once people are sufficiently satisfied with their ego needs, they move to fulfill the fifth level, which is known as the self actualization need. And this refers to the individual's desire to fulfill his or her personal potential, and they want to become everything that they are capable of. And for example, an artist may want to express himself or herself on the canvas. A research scientist may strive to find a new drug that eradicates cancer. So they are basically working towards achieving their goals, and they are basically exploring their potential. And one of the major limitation of Maslow hierarchy of need is that this model cannot be empirically tested. There is no way to measure precisely how satisfied one level of need must be before the next higher need becomes operative. The need hierarchy is very close to American culture, and it appears to be both culture and time bound. In non Western countries, the needs specified by Maslow are ranked differently. Indeed, research indicated that in some countries, safety, love, and belonging are at the apex of the need pyramid. Now, let's talk about trio of needs. This framework talks about power, affiliation, and achievement as a means of human motivation. The power need is an individual's desire to control his or her environment. So it includes the need to control the other person and objects within the environment. And this need appears to be closely related to the ego need, in that many individuals experience increased self esteem when they exercise power over objects or people. Now, when we look at affiliation, this need is very similar to the social needs as identified in Maslow hierarchy of need, and it suggests that behavior is strongly influenced by the desire of friendship, belonging, acceptance. Now, the last need is the achievement, and individuals with a strong achievement need often regard personal accomplishment as an end in itself. They are self confident, they enjoy taking calculated risks, actively research the environment, and value feedback, often in the form of monetary rewards. So, now let's look at this advertisement and which of the trio of needs does the ad appeal to. Now, let's move to the third learning objective of this chapter, which talks about to understand how to identify and measure the measurement of motives. Now, there are three different ways through which we can measure the motives. Number one is self reports, then we have qualitative research, and finally the motivational research. So, if we look into the self reported measures of motives, it consists of written statements which ask respondents to indicate how relevant each statement is to them. So, it's kind of a psychometric scales in which, or kind of surveys in which we have statements, and the respondents, they look at those statements and then they indicate how relevant each statement is to them. Then we have this qualitative research. In this, basically, when respondents are unwilling or unable to report their motives, researchers use qualitative research to delve into consumers' subconscious hidden motivation. So in qualitative research, we mostly go for focus group or in-depth interviews. We probe in deep insights by asking questions from consumers. We go for in-depth interviews. Many qualitative methods are also termed as projective techniques because they require respondents to interpret stimuli that do not have any clear meaning, and based on the assumption that the subjects will reveal or project the subconscious hidden motives into the ambiguous stimuli. Now, table 3.4 provides examples of different qualitative measures of motives. Motivation research is also qualitative research and seeks to tap into subconscious by adapting Freud psychoanalytical techniques. So now let's look into this. Now let's look into this qualitative measures of motive, and in this we have different research methods like storytelling, word association, thematic appreciation test, drawing pictures, and photo shots. So we'll be discussing them one by one. First is storytelling. So in storytelling, we ask customers to share their real life stories regarding the use of product under study. And by this means, we collect a lot of information regarding consumers' perceptions of the different products that they are using. So in case of these diapers, we came across that the parents, they were actually more interested in child development, and they were more interested of comfortable sleep because that leads to the child development. And they were of this view that if a child wore diapers too long, they actually started feeling distressed and embarrassed because they seem it as their failures, as they were unable to toilet train their children. So now the company introduced its highly successful Huggies pull-up training pants, a product that established a new category in the US diaper industry. So it's talking about consumer experiences with the product. So we can work on improving the products and services. Now then we have this word association. This is another very good technique of qualitative measure of motives. So in word association method, respondents are presented with words one at a time and asked to say the first word that comes in their mind. In this method, it is basically we determine consumer associations with existing brand names and those under development. And in sentence compilation, the respondents are asked to complete a sentence upon hearing opening phrase, like people who drive convertibles are more stylish, and so on. So let's look into the third one, which is the thematic appreciation test, and it was basically developed by Henry A. Murray. And the thematic appreciation test consists of showing pictures to the individual respondents and asking them to tell a story about each picture. For example, Clarissa, they employed an image of a female looking at the mirror, and under the caption, here's a teenager looking into the mirror and seeing pimples. The researcher discovered that teenagers view their lives as fast-paced and socially active, and the discovery of pimple abruptly disturbs the swiftness of their lives. The resulting advertisement depicted in a teenager who's walking briskly down this street and spots a pimple on his face in a store window. So all the motion around him stops, depicting that everything has been at a halt. So he applies carousel on the pimple, and the pimple disappears, and then the life resumes its pace. And now next is the drawing pictures. Visual images, they're often used to study consumer perception of various brands and to develop new advertising strategies. For example, when respondents, they were asked to draw pictures of a typical Pillsbury cake mix user, the drawings depicted old-fashioned chubby females wearing frilly aprons. But it was very different when they were asked to draw pictures of Duncan Hines cake mix, and the drawing shows a very contemporary trendy female wearing heels and mini skirts. So these findings provide important input to Pillsbury concerning the need to reposition its product. Now, finally, the last qualitative measures of motive technique is photo shots. And in this case scenario, they have given the example of advertising agency of latex, which makes undershirts for female. And they give a stack of photos to their female shoppers, and they ask them to select pictures portraying their own self-image. Surprisingly, it's been observed that the female, those who were even overweight and appeared to be old-fashioned, they basically picked up pictures of the self-image as someone who's very thin and slim. So they came up with advertisement in which they started showing the desired self-image of the females. Now let's talk about personality. The personality is known as the inner psychological characteristics, traits, or the psychological makeup of any human being. So it includes the specific qualities, attributes, traits, factors, and mannerism that distinguish one individual from another individual, and that both determine and reflect how we think and act. So it's something that is of great importance, is that the personality not just only determine but also reflects how we think and behave. So it is something which is affecting our cognition and our behavior. So, although researchers they does not agree regarding the role of hereditary and early childhood experiences on personality development versus the broader social and environmental influences on whether personality should be viewed as a unified whole or as specific traits, researchers agree that. So it means that there are many conflicts regarding personality, like many think that it's mean the hereditary and the early childhood experiences does affect personality. Many do not agree to it, and there are many those who think that the personality can be affected by the social and environmental influences, but many oppose it. So but there is something on which there is a consensus, and that is that personality reflect individual differences, and we have seen that inner characteristics that constitute an individual personality, they are basically unique combination of factors, and no two individuals they're exactly same, and many individuals they possesses a single or few different traits that may match with another person, but overall their personality is entirely different from one another. So, personality actually enables marketers to categorize consumers into different groups on the basis of one or several traits, because consumers who belong to a given segment are often high on particular personality characteristics, where consumers from another segment score low on the same characteristics. So, it's a very easy way of making different profiles or different segments for target marketing, and this will help us to understand their behavior. By knowing their personality, we can actually assess how they're going to think and behave under different marketing situations. And then they are saying personality is generally consistent and enduring. So what we need to understand that individual's personality tends to be both consistent and enduring. The sibling who comments that her sister has always cared a great deal about her clothes from the time she was a toddler is supporting the contention that personality has both consistent and endurance. So when people they give such statement about other people, it basically reflects that they have seen that behavior or their cognition consistently over a period of time. So personality they are saying is kind of consistent and enduring. But there is another thing which we should take into account, and that is that personality may change. Though we are saying that personality is consistent and enduring, but what we need to understand that over the period of time, with certain events that happen in people's life, like the death of a parent, or maybe losing a job, or maybe having a birth, maybe giving a birth to a child, or getting married, may serve as a reason that people's personality may change. Now we'll go and look into the theories of personality. So there are basically three different theories of personality that we'll be considering in this chapter, and the reason that why we are considering those theories is that these theories are important because they are talking about the relationship between the personality and the consumer behavior. They help us to explain that. Now let's look into the first theory, which is basically proposed by Sigmund Freud. And Sigmund Freud is very much famous for his work done on this psychoanalysis or psychopaths. So now when we look at this theory has a premise, and the premise actually talks about that unconscious needs or drives, especially the sexual and the biological needs, they are the heart of the human motivation, and personality. So they are the core, they are the center of human motivation and personality, and they are the driving force how human they behave under different situations. So according to Freud, if we look at this diagram, we come across that there are three different types of systems that he is talking about. Number one, he's talking about the ID. So if you look at the ID, it is basically the warehouse of primitive and impulsive drives. Basic physiological needs like thirst, sex, and hunger, they are basically the prime motivation and center for motivation, for which individual seeks immediate satisfaction without concern for the specific means of satisfaction. So here basically what is being stressed upon is that human beings, they have physiological needs which are either biological needs which are consistent of the primary basic needs, that is food, shelter, water, and sex. So these are the basically the biological needs of humans. So looking at these needs, we come across the fact that they are the prime motivation of human behavior. And when we are talking about ID, we need to understand that this ID system is basically very close to what animals they have. Animals, whenever they have any physiological needs or biological needs, they just go and fulfill it. Like if a monkey wants to eat something, he may climb a banana tree and start eating bananas without looking at is it legal or not, does it belong to me or not. So it's basically like humans, they just want to, whenever they have any physiological need, they are immediately into thinking about fulfilling the need without looking at the way through which they're actually fulfilling the need. They're least concerned about that are they paying to someone or not, or is it does it belong to them or not, but just they'll just go and immediately go for the satisfaction. So second, if we look at the another extreme, that is known as the superego. Basically, if we look at this superego, it's basically contrast to the impulsive, selfish ID. So the superego is basically individuals' inner expression of society's moral and ethical codes of proper and correct conduct. So these individuals, they're very much cautious. They just want to live their life according to the society norms, according to the moral and ethical values that they have learned. Now they are always into correct conduct or proper following the proper code of conduct. So the superego role is to see that individuals satisfy their needs in a socially acceptable fashion, and that is basically the prime concern of all these individuals. So the superego is the kind of brake that restrains or inhibits the impulsive forces of the ID. So finally, the ego is the individual's conscious control. It functions as an internal monitor that attempts to balance the impulsive demands of the ID and the socio-cultural constraints of the ego. And finally, we'll be talking about the ego. Now, the ego, it functions as basically the individual's conscious control. So individuals, they are monitoring that they have to create the balance between the impulsive demands of the ID and the socio-cultural constraints of the superego. So it's creating the balance. For example, if you're sitting at your friend's place and they have brought certain snacks in the trolley for you, and see now you can go and eat anything that you want from that trolley. So that is basically, you have to know where you can let go this superego and you can follow the ID, and you should know where you have to take into account the superego and let go of the ID. So it's basically it's kind of a wisdom that you use that. Now Freud, he also emphasized that individual's personality is formed as a person, he or she passes through different stages of early development and the childhood development stages. So it's like he has defined different stages like oral, anal, phallic, latent, and genital stages. So according to him, when people, they are passing through these different stages, how well they manage those crises that they come across, that basically shapes up their personality. And he says that if a child needs a food, so and he's not being served with the food, then what will happen, that the child may become fixated at this stage, and as an adult his personality will reflect dependence on other, And he gave another example that an individual who is treated impatiently during toilet training may become an adult obsessed with cleanliness and neatness. So he says that when a child is developing and he came across different crises and how well he managed those crises or how those events that they take place, that basically forms their personality.